Hello, everybody. This is James Cox, and today I am going to be having a conversation with Danny Shine. How are you doing, Danny?
Yeah, I'm really well. How are you?
I'm doing good, and thank you, sir, for joining me on the on this broadcast. And yeah, you might want to mute your YouTube player right now. That's
Well, it's only just as it happens. I'm only just. It's still loading it.
This is James Cox, and today I'm going to have a conversation. So if you just mute that.
Yeah.
Okay. How are you doing, Danny?
Yeah, I'm really well. Oh, I'm very confused now because I've.
You need to mute the YouTube in this broadcast, and yeah, you might want to mute your YouTube player right now. That's.
Hold on. As it happens, I'm only. Hold on. I got another one. Sorry.
Okay.
I think I had two of them. I had two copies of those running. So. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, you can just hit pause or
I got it.
Just mute. Okay,
that's fine. And I've got the chat there, so I can see. Yeah.
Okay, so Danny, I invited Danny to come. We're just gonna have a conversation and talk about, things in life that I guess we've found out. I mean, I found out these things a little late on in life. Some people seem to be waking up a little bit earlier. I don't know about you, Danny, when you did, but before we get into what you do, why you do it, and and that, if you would, it's up to you, give us a little bit of information about yourself, you kind of your background, what did you used to do, and why you got into this.
Okay, but before I start, my intention is to do some meditation in this time we have together. Just short meditations, because that's one of the most important parts of what I do, and I want to invite anyone that's watching to do it as well, because just meditating for 30 seconds here and every so often during the day can be a really interesting way of introducing meditation into your life, rather than sitting down for 15-20 minutes, half an hour. I'm not saying that's not good. It's great if you can do that, but this is really good, and so I'm going to probably be doing some meditations. So you want to know how this started?
Yeah. When I first come across your channel, you were, I think it was like the Love Police. There was you and Charlie Veach, and I saw you in some videos, megaphoning. What was it that made you actually go out? What were you doing prior to that? And then what was it that made you actually go out onto the street and start basically letting people know your message and what really, I mean, the thing is that you keep saying in your videos when you ask people is what is really going on. So yeah, just just a little bit of background, what led up to that.
Okay, so I want to be really brief with this, but I started speaking at Speaker's Corner about 10 years ago, and I did that because I just don't know, it's just got this idea into my head, and I enjoyed it. And then I sort of started realizing, well, if this is where freedom of speech is, in one little corner on a Sunday, that's ridiculous. So I carried on doing it, and I used to go and sort of stand and just speak, not without amplification, or just stand with signs in central London. And then I met Charlie, and we hit it off very quickly. I met him in 2009, and within 3 months we'd made these videos. I don't know how many there were, 20 or 30 videos. He made them, he put them on his channel, and after 3 months I realized that I couldn't work with him anymore. I didn't feel safe around him, and so I just went my separate ways. That was 6 years ago. So and since then I've been doing it on my own. I don't, you know, I didn't set out to do this. I learned about these things and still learning about what, you know, about some of the things that are going on behind the scenes. I learned about those only really in the last, I don't know, since 10 years maybe at the most, and much more so since I've been doing the megaphoning. I've sort of learned about them as I've gone along. So, and I continue to learn. So that's a bit of background about how it all started.
Okay, so obviously, then by the sounds of it, you found some stuff out you didn't like about it, you didn't like things about it, so you decided to use your voice to speak up, and hopefully you could get other people to listen to what you're saying, and so anybody really would go and question what you're saying by going and researching it, or ask you for more questions, or ask somebody else for more, ask somebody else questions. And you were hoping that the information that you're putting out there, people would realize, what is really going on in the world. Was that the bottom, the bottom of it?
No.
No?
No. I don't really, I find it very difficult whenever I'm asked about this. I find it very difficult to define what I do, and I don't like doing it. I like other people to, like you guessed in a way. I mean, that, there's an element of what you're saying in it, but I go out there because I love it. It's the most exciting thing to do, and it just comes out of my mouth. I don't plan it. I just look around me, and I started to realize that just noticing things properly as you look around you, and thinking about them. Like today I was outside Tesco, and which is a big supermarket chain, and just looking at in the store, there's so much going on in that store from a psychological point of view and from manipulation. They're the absolute masters of manipulation. You don't get to be right at the top of the chain, but without being absolutely brilliant manipulators. And so I stood outside the store today and just told people what they're up to a little bit. So I do it for fun. I enjoy it very much. I don't know what's going to happen. It's a form of self-expression. I don't know how it's going to affect the world, because all sorts of things happen in our world today in terms of connections and people. But I don't go out there thinking I've got to tell everyone about things. So yeah.
Okay. Right. So after the Love Police thing, you then decided to go out by yourself. And just to let people know that who don't know what you do, you stand out mainly in open spaces with a megaphone and signs, and start, like you said, just saying stuff that you think you want people to know, and you enjoy doing it. And then obviously you get a few hecklers, and I think in one video, didn't some guy pour some water or some Coke over you? I think you were near a train station or something.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I've hardly been, considering how many hours I've been out there. And sometimes there are drunk people, and sometimes there are people who are really, really like on edge. This is part of it's sad. But on the whole, I don't get attacked too much, considering. There's been an interesting development in that for me, in that a police officer last week gave me a warning for antisocial behaviour, which at the time it was it was really unpleasant, and it was crazy. But it was really, I was really pleased that I got it. So I've learned a lot of what I've learned the hard way, but not very hard way. So like the soft hard way. So most people to understand the level of understanding I have about the legal system, and that I'm not saying that I know how it all works at all, but the understanding I have, the knowledge I got from being up against it. Yeah. So I've I've never been convicted. So I see that as learning at at a low price. A lot of people have to go to prison to understand this sort of thing. So I was really grateful for it, because it forced me to go and look at the Antisocial Behaviour Act, which is the most ridiculous piece of nonsense I've seen ever. I mean, and a lot of fun can be had with it, because basically what it says is that antisocial behaviour is doing something that has or might cause alarm, harassment, distress to anyone, right? So that's just absolute nonsense. So I'm really interested. I'm quite excited about it. I've got the guy's email address, the police officer, and so I'm going to be looking at that. And you know, if he claims that really is how it works, well, I'm going to start complaining about betting shops. I mean, just to start with, in the UK, they seem to be very antisocial. So that's what I've been up to recently. But I wanted to also speak to you about something that you mentioned before we went live, which is about the jury nullification.
Yep. So
I met somebody, as a result of what I've been doing, I met somebody who was taken to court for the possession of cannabis. It was a tiny, tiny amount of cannabis, and he chose to go to the Crown Court, and he got there, and you know, it's hilarious. You go to court, and any case that comes up, however stupid, they're all sitting there really officiously, and they're taking it all very seriously, right? This guy had like less than a joint's worth. We're talking about literally crumbs of cannabis. They didn't even know how much it was. It was just pathetic, right? And they said, right, we're going to have 1.5 day trial for this guy, right? And that would have cost taxpayer £20,000. So one of the guy's spectators wrote to the Crown Prosecution Service and said, this seems to be a complete waste of money, and how can this be in the public interest? And the guy got a response in writing from the Crown Prosecution Service saying, a jury has a right to find a defendant not guilty if they think that finding them guilty is not in the public interest, which is what jury nullification is. And so the idea that I had, which I'd like other people to take on board, if anybody's watching this in England who fancies sort of getting this going, is to start a campaign of artistic, I would try and make it artistic, an artistic kind of initiative, standing outside Crown courts all over the country, yeah, with that quotation in, and just, you know, just educating the juries and the people in a clever way, in an artistic way, in a funny way, that they have the power basically to change the law. Quite, you know, they can just they can decide. So that's what I'd like to, because we've got it in writing now from them.
I can definitely help you out. I've got some information that I can send you, some link. You're right. The jury has the right to judge the facts of the case, the law itself, and whether or not the law has been misapplied. And guess what? It doesn't take, you know, all 12 of them to, you know, basically set a precedence. One person on a jury can actually say not guilty. Now, it doesn't mean that the person's going to go free. What it means is that that's a hung jury, and that case at that point then is taken out of court, and then it would be up to the prosecutor then to decide whether he wants to retry the person. So if you can get it, just one person, get one person on that jury to understand that they are the most powerful person in that courtroom, not the judge, not the prosecutor, not the defendant. You know, they make that decision, and one person can just say not guilty. They don't even have to give a reason why, or they can say, you know, well, I think that the prosecutor didn't prove his case. well enough, whatever, they can just, say, I'm not giving a reason. I'm not changing my mind. We can all sit here till the cows come home. I'm not changing my mind. I'm saying not guilty. And foreman, can you go out and tell the judge that we've, you've got a hung jury, and that's it. And then basically, like I said, it's up to then the prosecutor whether he wants to try the case. And if he doesn't, then that's it, case dismissed. And if you get enough of those, if you get enough of hung juries, I know in Montana, and you can Google this, in Montana, they're having a hard time now seating a jury, because when they do what's called voir dire, where they ask the questions to eliminate people off the, get them out the jury pool, it's such a card, it really is, because they ask them these questions because, oh, we don't want him, he didn't answer it to our liking, and they get these, they get the people that they want on the jury. And in Montana, when they're asking people, they can't seat a jury. So now I think they don't even prosecute somebody with a certain amount of marijuana. They don't even bother. They don't they get arrested, they get locked up, and then they just dismiss it because they're just having a hard time, having a problem seating a jury, because every time they ask the questions, they're not getting the people that they want. Would you send somebody to prison for marijuana? No. So it's a very powerful tool, and it is a way of getting some of these, stupid laws. And the non-government.
By the way, I object to you calling them stupid.
Why?
They're not stupid laws. They're very clever laws.
Well,
they are. They're clever. They're very, very clever laws. They're laws that are very, very that are very important, and they make up a great deal of revenue for the people in the system. They're very clever laws. They're totally and utterly unjustifiable and immoral, but they're not stupid.
Well, they're clever on their part. It's a very clever scheme. I'll give you that. It's a very clever scheme and scam to actually, yes.
It's an unbelievable scam. It's brilliant, though. It's a brilliant scam because they're getting away with it every single day, all around the world, and nobody seems to bat an eyelid.
Yeah, but jury nullification is a great thing. I used to stand outside courthouses down in Florida, passing out fully informed jury information pamphlets, and the police, and the federal police, the security guards, they don't like it. And there's lots of cameras, there's more cameras around courthouses than there is anywhere else, and they come up and they harass you. They're on my YouTube channel, you can see them. In fact, I've made like kind of a small documentary about my interactions whilst doing jury nullification, jury rights stuff. And it is very important, and people should be aware that their rights when they sit on a jury, that if there's that they have a right to nullify, to say not guilty. If they don't agree with the law, you say not guilty. If you think the law is being misapplied, you say not guilty. And obviously there's a saying that goes along with this: no victim, no crime. If there is no victim, then no crime has been committed. And that's basically it. No harm to anybody or their property, and even if there is harm to somebody's property, was it intentional or is it accidental? So at the end of the day, like I said, one person on a jury gets to say not guilty, and that's it. They don't even have to give a reason why. It's very powerful. It's very powerful.
Yeah.
So yes, I mean, guerrilla theater, I think that's what you are thinking about doing, right? That's what they call it. Yeah, that is especially if it's entertaining and it gets people to stop and watch what's going on. And, you've got your signs and you've got information. You've got a few people with you that will pass out information to people.
I mean, if it's a nationwide kind of, but not organized, but just like an idea out there.
Yeah, spontaneous.
People can do it wherever they are. Yeah, it's so much better. It's so much more fun than protesting. It's 5 days a week. They need to be there for an hour in the morning and an hour in the evening. right? They don't have to be there all day. It can be local, you know, and there's lots, and there's so much fun to be had.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I had fun. I had fun doing it, and you know, if they got really boisterous with me and say that you know, if you don't move, I'm going to arrest you, then I'd just move on and I'd just go to another, you know, public space, because my philosophy on it was, see the chicken, he runs away, lives to fight another day. So, you know, if they come up and tell me they're going to arrest me if I didn't move, you can't do this here. I'd question them like you do when you know, somebody calls the so-called, by the way, I don't use that word police. I think that's a nice, clever word in your words to call men and women in costumes that have torture devices, right? That seem that this perceived authority, that seem to have this right to kidnap and cage at will anybody that they wish. And I think, you know, words get used in certain ways to obscure the fact of what things are, right? And police sounds kind of like polite. You know, what's the other one? Peace officer. Yeah, there's nothing peaceful about these men and women in these costumes. At the end of the day, it's just a man and a woman in a costume, and the perceived authority, because from being a child, you are told, and you know, your parents were told it too, and your grandparents, you know, this is just an idea. It's a mental construct. It's not concrete. It's just a costume where, you know, that a man and a woman's got on. And
you know, and you know, the big problem, of course, with it, sorry to interrupt you, but the big problem with it is that these people have sold their, as far as I know, unless someone can explain to me, they seem to have sold their moral responsibility to this organization, and you know, they will basically do whatever they're told to do, and that's, you know, that's not something that
you mean like the Nazis? Just following orders. I'm just doing my job.
Well, the problem with the Nazis,
I don't make the law. I don't make the law. Yeah. If you want to change the law, have a word with your politician, and you know,
that's right.
You can vote them out. You can always vote them out. Get somebody in to change the law. God.
I know. It's but you know, they've all been, you know, trained. So, you know, that uniform is just a sign that they've all been trained to think the same way. They don't, many of them, you know, some of them, so there are very few of them, but some of them are aware of it, I think, but most of them are not aware of it. So what I like that, you're right. I don't know, what word can we use for the police then?
I just say man, you know, man, and here we have a costume wearing man or woman, you know, depending on what it is. That's what I say, because we have to me, I think we have to point out to people that basically it is just a man or woman, right? They don't really have any authority. The authority is perceived. I mean, Danny, if you, let's say for argument's sake, you saw somebody, right, parked on double yellow lines, and you and a bunch of friends walked up and pulled a notepad out, right, and started scribbling the license plate down and asking the guy for his name, and you know, said, "Can I see your driver's license?" And then wrote £50. You owe me £50, and gave it to him, right? He would look at you like you were some kind of mental case. But because somebody's got this costume on, and they're following what some other people have told them, you know, to do, and you know, some men and women have had this meeting in a chamber somewhere where they've scribbled their wills down on a piece of paper, and through some magical ritual, right? All say aye. How many we got? 1, 2, 3, 50, 51. Oh yes, we've got a majority, right? That's a law. That's a law now, right? That's a law. That's passed. Okay, right. That's it. Enforcers, men and women in costumes, go out and see if you can find anybody that is breaking the so-called law. It's just an idea. It's just wills being forced on people by, you know, this magical ritual that, you know, listen, people will say, well, we're governed by the consent of the governed. Well, where does this consent come from? Because, you know, I don't have these rights to do it. So how can I give somebody rights that I don't have myself? How can I give somebody to go and kidnap and cage somebody who's not done harm to anybody? There is no victim. How can I give that right? How can I give that right to this so-called, and you know, it's another abstract idea, politician, and another one, government, abstract idea, doesn't exist. You can't touch it, right? It's not concrete. It's just abstract, right? Sure, there's a man and a woman that calls himself a politician and you know, is part of this so-called government, right? And there are government buildings that you can touch, what they call government buildings, but this doesn't exist. These are words that people have been told, you know, for years and years and years, and this is something that we need, because if we don't have it, we'll all be going around tearing one another's faces off and robbing one another, and that's not true, you know. The police aren't stood outside your house 24 hours a day, stopping somebody from coming in and burglaring you and, you know, doing things. So, you know, why do you need them? And when you call them, you know, it'd be quicker to get a pizza delivered. You know, they
just get a pizza man to help you while he comes.
They show up after the fact. So what's the point? They truly are revenue generators. It's when they give you a citation, basically that's a tax. Anything that the, you know, the people that call themselves politicians, right, through their magical ritual and magic pieces of paper with magic words on them, they call them laws or statutes, acts, ordinances, whatever you want to call them, these abstract ideas, you know, with abstract ideas of people in costumes enforcing them. It's just a tax. That it's just another way of stealing money from people. Speeding fines, taxation through citation. That's all it is. It's you know, it's crazy that they're getting away with it, and you know, thanks to, you know, people like you and myself and people that are speaking up and trying to get this message out, trying to get people to understand that, you know, you don't have a contract with somebody to have a portion of the fruits of your labor. So why are you paying for all this? It is kind of sad in a way. We're actually paid through taxes to enslave ourselves and have these, you know, magical abstract ideas, these laws and, you know, things forced upon us. And then, you know, if you don't obey, men and women in costumes come and kidnap and cage you. And that's arrest. That's another fancy word. It's another nice, for kidnap and cage.
Yeah. I know. I mean, the thing is that, you know, that, listen, I've only understood about this over the last few years, you know, and the problem is that the people who are members of these so-called fictions, like the government, have a lot of control over the information. They've got control over the schools. They've got control over the media. I mean, not complete control, but it's very cleverly controlled in a way. And so that's why most intelligent people don't know about these things. You know, I didn't know about it, and most of the people around me don't realize that taxation is, you know, it's just completely unjustifiable extortion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's theft. Taxation, theft.
It's plain theft. I mean, it's vile. It is really vile.
They and
the way they, you know, just the whole thing, the way it's done, and it's backed by violence. You know, I've phoned up. I've had one of my YouTube films. I phone up to the tax man and I say to them, you know, it seems to me that it's a form of extortion, because you're what happens if I don't? I said, what happens if I don't pay my tax? And he says, well, then we'll hand it over to the bailiffs. I said, well, so that means you're threatening me with violence. And he says, no, 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 we hand it over to the bailiffs. They do it, you know.
Yeah, so it's coercion. They coerce you, and if you don't pay, then people in costumes will come and, like you said, they'll use force to get whatever means that they need to settle this money that they say that you owe. Going back to when we were talking about the men and women in costumes, personally, myself, I don't think that they have a moral compass, because it is a job. Well, it's not a job. I don't know what a job is, but it's something that they do, and the money that they get paid with is actually coerced from people. Now, can you imagine if you, and I don't know if you live on like a housing estate in England where there's, quite a good number of houses around you on your streets and everything. But can you imagine if you could get, as a social experiment, a few members or a few friends, I mean, everybody on the street wouldn't know who lives wherever, to come with you. Let's say there was 10 of you, and you went knocking on people's doors. And you said, we had a meeting last night, and we're letting you know that we are your local, neighborhood government, and we are going to make sure that you're all nice and safe and protected in your house. But by the way, every Friday, we're going to come and knock on your door, and you have to pay us. We're not going to be as harsh as the people down in the, Houses of Parliament or the local city government, but you're going to have to pay us 10% of your pay stub, but we need to look at it, and you have to then cough it up. And by the way, if you don't, you see, me and my friends here, we're going to come and we're going to kidnap and cage you. John here has a nice 2-car garage. It's nicely fitted out with bars and things like that. And don't worry, you will get 3 squares at meals a day. They won't consist of much. Breakfast normally is porridge, and then you might get if you're lucky, ham or bologna sandwich in the afternoon, and I forget what we serve in the evening. So we'll be around on Friday, right? 5%, because
hold on a second. Don't forget also that you can also argue it in our court system that we've got down the road.
Yeah, we've got our own court system over at Peter's house in the backyard, of which I appoint myself as the man in the black dress. And and as well, you can have a jury of your peers. Sean here, he will be the court bailiff, and we'll send him out. And hopefully, if he knocks on enough doors and tells the people who live in the area to come, they're needed for jury service, you might get a trial. But if we can't get 12 people, then we're sorry. You'll just have to sit in the cage until we can. What would they say to that? What would they say? And you tell them you're governed by consent. It's the consent of the governed. Well, I didn't consent to this. Too bad, mate. The very fact that you live in this house, you could always leave. Move to Somalia. Oh, you sound like an anarchist to me. You need to move to Somalia. What do you mean you don't like our rules? It is absolutely crazy. It is. But like you say, they're very crafty, and you say they've got this cleverly crafted plan, and some people are making a lot of money. And I think the banking system, along with these people that rule, these are rulers, have got everybody basically by the balls. I think the last thing that we've got left, well, over here in the United States, we've still got firearms, but you guys, I guess, lost those a long time ago, right? And
someone's written in the thing there, in the comments, Ken Shikenji says, some people are willing to pay their tax. Not all tax is theft, and not all theft is immoral. Well, what tax is not theft, and what theft is not immoral? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean it's all theft. Any theft, any tax is theft. Even indirect taxes like VAT. What is that? What can you tell me what value you're getting added to these goods that you're purchasing?
Oh, I've lost you.
Who are you getting?
I'm losing you now.
You lost me?
Yeah, yeah.
Am I back now?
Yeah.
What value are you getting in this value-added tax? What are you getting? What's added? What is this value added? Is this another trick words?
Anyway, I've got some, and Spliff Sen says, I'm an anarchist and I live in Somalia. Are there a lot of anarchists in Somalia? Don't know. What else? If you've got any questions, by the way, can they ask the questions if they want to?
Yeah. I mean, let's open it up for questions then. I do have one question from Dinny, who messaged me earlier because he said he's I guess I've seen him in the chat room. He said, where does Danny see the world in 10 years from now? I think basically he's asking, like, kind of, do you think that we're going to have any justice? Do you think there's going to be change in any way? Do you think, where do you see the world 10 years from now?
Okay, so I haven't done my meditation much in this session, so I'd like to invite everybody who's watching to join me if you want to, and just count to 30 and meditate on that question yourself. Where do you see the world in 10 years' time? Are
you going to count us down, or do we just do it now?
No, just do it.
All right.
What came up for me is that how could I possibly know what the world's going to be like in 10 years' time? And and what does that even mean? I don't know if I know what the world's like now. The world is a massive place, and there's lots of things going on lots of different levels. And for me, I don't think a lot like that. I'd be interested to know what other people think. I don't really think like that. I just I prefer to be here right now and have fun with what is here right now, and help people to question what's here right now. And I think that's more interesting and useful than trying to predict what's going to happen. I just don't know. I can't predict, and that's not my thing.
How would you like it to be? I mean, would you like to see more people questioning everything that they do? Things that people are trying to, push on them and subject them to. Would you like to see, like, this abstract idea, as we talked about, called government? Would you like to see that disappear? Would you like to see a more peaceful world? I mean, I know I'm throwing a lot at you here, but how would you like it to? How would you like it to be? I think that's a better question.
Well, yeah. Again, I don't know. I don't know about 10 years' time, but yes, in general, I would like, I would like larger and larger numbers of people to become aware of what we understand now. And I'd like them to become aware that this idea of government is just what is what the word says it is. It's government. I don't know if this is correct. I haven't looked at it carefully, but as far as I know, that means mind control. And that's what they are, just a bunch of mind controllers that have got us to believe a whole bunch of rubbish. I cannot recommend enough Lark and Rose's book, I should probably read it again because I still find it quite hard to explain these things to other people. But that book, The Most Dangerous Superstition, you know, that...
You're talking about this book?
That's the one, yeah. That's the one.
Yeah.
An amazing book.
Absolutely.
And, you know, I'd love for more and more people to do that. I'd love it to be a more peaceful world. I'd love it for the government to be exposed for what it really is. You know, and all I can do is my best to do my bit, and I love doing it. So, yeah.
There are some more questions.
Oh, I've lost you now.
What drives you?
Ah, okay. The question is, what drives me?
Yeah.
What drives me? Okay, let me meditate on that. I'd like to invite everybody to meditate on the question, what drives you? See, to me, I'm not sure exactly what he meant by that question, but to me, that question would be like asking me what drives me to have sex.
So is it, you know, I mean, is it just like you feel you have this want or a need to, you know, go out and put this, you know, not so much information out there, but you are, like you said, seeing things and you're actually questioning things. I mean, tell us, you said today you went out and you were looking into Tesco and, you know, you were seeing all kinds of things going on. So explain to us, what was it that you were seeing that the majority of people that were just like drones, just walking around the store, not even thinking about the stuff that you were seeing?
Well, for example, you go into Tesco and they've now got their own bakery, right? And it's called the Euphorium Bakery, and it's right.
That's a nice word, isn't it?
Yeah. Right. You know, and you walk in, it's the first thing you see is these cakes and bread and donuts, right? You know, I mean, yeah, it's just ridiculous. They're literally making that, you know, they're making me sick. I've been banned from this Tesco store, by the way, for life, for going in there. I've started to go inside places and speaking quite a lot now. Sometimes without the megaphone, just speaking out loud. And, you know, and so they've banned me for life from the store, which is great for me. So, you know, from that to the fonts and the colors and the sizes of all the signage and the wording, and every little helps. Yeah, you know, that's a brilliant little slogan. It's genius. It's so simple, and it's just the absolute opposite of the truth. You know, every little hurts. There's a book, or you know, that's called Every Little Hurts. It's about Tesco. You know, the amount of hurting that's going on in there. I mean, you know, almost everything that's on the shelves in these places is stained with the blood of exploitation. You know, how many people are exploited to get our produce to our plates? I mean, it's incredible. So I guess that's what I say. I don't always share about that particular thing, but I just wanted to tell you that a nice light story is that today I was doing it, and next door was Neil's Yard, which is a small business that sells like supplements and healthy foodie things and lots of nice things. and they also have massage therapy going on. And they came out to me. They've come out a few times, and they said, "Look, we're trying to do some. People are trying to have massages. Do you mind doing this somewhere else? Actually, would you like, a massage? Would you like a free 30-minute aromatherapy session?" So that's the best way to shut me up, is to bribe me with a half an hour of aromatherapy massage. If anybody's watching and wants to shut me up.
No, I watched a video not long back of yours where you actually wanted them to ban you.
Yeah.
You got them to write it down on a piece of paper. And to me, it's strange that people don't figure this out. Look, here's a guy. He's in a what they call private property. There's some nice words, and they're private. I like to throw the word quasi-private, quasi-public, because it's neither nor. You can't invite public people. What I would regard as private is that your house, for instance, right? Nobody comes in it unless you say so, right? But these stores, people can just walk in without the say so, right? So how can it be private? So I call them quasi-private, quasi-public, because it's either or. It doesn't matter which way you say it; it's still quasi, right? And so here you are in this store, and these people are just like, they want you out, and they don't realize that if they'll just ignore you and let you talk for 20-30 minutes, and sometimes you probably won't even
go on that long.
Yeah, you might only do it for 5 or 10 minutes, and if nobody's paying attention, you're just going to walk out and just probably never go back there again. Oh, can't get a rise out of those mugs in there. I'd just go somewhere else where somebody else will come up. And so you got these guys to actually write on a piece of paper that they're banning you. And when they asked you what your name is, you said, "My first name's Al and my last name's Alchemist."
What I like best about that, right, which is what I really love about the videos, and this is, you hear this a lot on the phone videos that I do, which is that you could see him, as I said, Alchemist. He sort of 1 second, it's sort of as if he kind of didn't quite compute. He realised it wasn't quite right. And then, but then he went back to sleep after that.
Yeah. It's funny. Have you ever been arrested, Danny, doing this?
Oh, yes. Several times. I haven't been arrested doing, I've only ever been actually arrested doing this once.
Sorry, kidnapped and caged. Kidnapped and caged.
Sorry, yes, very good. I wasn't caged, but I was kidnapped. They kidnapped me for about 5 minutes, and I managed to get them to de-kidnap me.
Okay.
Right, that's the only time I've ever been arrested for it. I have been, but I've been taken to court for it, for various related issues relating to it quite a number of times, 3 or 4 times.
Right.
So I've been through the court system, and I have been kidnapped and caged overnight, and been through the court system several times, which is an incredible education.
Would you like to elaborate on one of the kidnapping and caging and going before the man in the black dress, or panel of so-called authority? It probably was a magistrate, right?
Yeah.
What were you doing? What were you doing, and why did they kidnap and cage you?
First time was because I was standing outside King's Cross Station, which is a major station in London. This was many years ago, with a balaclava on, and it was quite cold, actually. A balaclava on and a sign, holding a sign that said "Don't panic," right? and I was waving to babies and things like that. It was fine. They didn't bother the babies. but most of the babies, but then there were 5 babies that it bothered. These babies were in costume, adult-sized babies, and one guy came up to me, and I wouldn't give him my details, or I kept asking questions about getting my details. I said, "Have I done anything wrong?" And after a while, he just lost it, and he just said, "Right, now I'm taking you, and I'm arresting you." And they arrested me, and they locked me up.
Kidnapping.
Sorry, kidnapped me, caged me. and then took me to court. I've seen them do this a lot, right? I mean, it's such a bent game. It's hilarious. That on the minute I get into the court, they change the charge. They're allowed to change the charge just whenever they like. So you can done all this work and paid all this money to someone, which I didn't, right? But I was representing myself, but I could have. And then they change the charge, and they do that quite a lot.
Yeah.
But they had these guys in fancy dress and everything. So on that particular case, I agreed to some S&M. You know what S&M is, right?
No, go ahead.
Sadomasochism.
Okay.
Right, because basically the legal system is just an outlet for sadomasochism. You know, and a lot, I don't know about a lot. There are some judges who actually have to, you know, go to sadomasochism. But that's what it is a form of, in my opinion. It's a big sadomasochism fest. And I got out of it by being bound over. Sounds nice, eh?
Bound over, yeah.
Fancy being bound over by three men in capes. Yeah. This was the city of London. They were robed.
Dresses.
They were robed in red and black. It was lovely.
The dresses.
Yeah, dresses, yeah. So that one, again, I wasn't convicted on that one.
Did they have all the wigs on? You know, the stupid old wigs? Did they?
No, because they were magistrates.
Oh,
they don't have yeah.
Magic straights.
Yeah.
Right. So you're right. They can change. You know, if you elect for a jury trial, let's say for argument's sake, if you would have played this out with them and you would have elected for a jury trial, right up to jury trial, they can change the charges as many times as they want. Right up to the day of the trial, they can change it. So yeah, you're right. If you've got a you are.
I said, well, it's a business, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's an S&M business, right? And you know, and the best, obviously, it's very good business practice to keep changing those things because just get more and more business in.
Yeah. You thought we were gonna bring you up on charges for this, right? Wrong. Fooled you. You know, it's kind of, you know, they want to mess with you. And like you said, if you are paying somebody to so-called represent you, even though his hands are tied, he can only do certain things within the legal system, and he won't, lie system, he won't ask certain questions that, you know, you want him or her being your solicitor, barrister, whatever, you know, fancy names that they give them. You know, it can only ask certain or phrase things in a certain way because, excuse me, he will lose or she will lose their livelihood, you know, because they're bound by this bar association and this code and, you know, all this nonsense. I mean, this is why there's no justice. And if, you know, if you are ever in court, you are better off, I think, trying to find somebody who's not a legal profession, but knows a little bit about how the procedure works. Somebody like Mark Stevens.
I've found someone here in England that's helped me a lot in that.
There's Fabrice. Do you know Fabrice?
Yeah, I know Fabrice. Yeah.
Yeah, so you got these people, and you go in with them, and it's called a Mackenzie friend, as you know. I'm just letting the audience know, and you use a Mackenzie friend, and you know, hopefully you can get yourself out of it. And like the one that Fabrice, when he helped, what was that lady's name? Helen, I think.
Helen, yeah.
She ended up getting some money back out of the system, but of course, you know, the slaves, you know, the people that pay taxes, that's where the money comes. So the slave master, the slave masters don't lose any money nor sleep over it, because it's all the other people that are paying for their own enslavement that are paying for it, you know. Are there any more questions in the chat room?
There's some comments. Last time at court for a speeding ticket, I used half a day arguing for fun, hysterical fun, once the fear is gone. Okay, fair enough. Lawyer's duty first is to the court, and to the client is secondary. Okay. Anything else you wanted to talk about?
Who, me?
Yeah.
I'm just looking back in the chat, really back, see if there's any questions that we've missed, because I just wanted to have a conversation with you first, and for you to elaborate on what you're doing, why you're doing it, and I'm just checking back to see if there are any questions. You might want to do it as well, and to see if I might have missed some.
If you've got a question, put it in there now with a question mark as well, so that we can just quickly see it. Any questions with question marks?
Yeah, any questions? Because we'll wrap this up, I guess, in the next 5 to 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And then if you stay on with me, Danny, when I end the broadcast, we could talk a little bit later, and if there's anything else that we can do, or I can help you out with hangouts and stuff like that. If it's a tool you want to use, let's have a look.
Right. Oh, does Danny see much of Charlie anymore? No, I haven't seen him for many years. Anything else? Okay. What should we talk about for the last few minutes?
I want to ask you everything. Yeah, something that you mentioned earlier on. Something about the people going into these stores, that the stores have all this fancy signage and different things, and it's like, I don't know, I don't know the way that you worded it. I forgot exactly what you said, but it sounded to me like they are making these people do this. Do you think that the people aren't making these choices by themselves to go and do this, or do you think it's just a thing from the way that people have been brought up, like with school and being given messages through television and radio and stuff like that, that they just can't resist? I mean, it's kind of like you sounded like people are being taken advantage of, like they have no control, like the stores and these corporations, which are fictions, as we know, are taking advantage of them in some way. I kind of.
By the way, just to pick you up on that, by the way, it's not the stores. The stores are not taking advantage of anyone, because they can't. It's the people. It's the people who are running these stores are taking advantage of those people. Let's not forget that. Tesco don't take advantage of anyone. It's the people who take
the people that run them. Tesco doesn't exist. It's just a building, and people run it, and they pay people in it salary money.
But your question is like, are you saying, do people really have choice, or am I saying they don't have choice?
Yeah. Do you think that people are genuinely being propagandized? And they can't resist it.
I can tell you from my own experience. I find it difficult to resist. That's why I think it's good to be banned from these stores, is because when I go into Waitrose or Tesco's, I can fall for it. I do fall for it. Even though I'm aware of it, I still fall for it. So if someone's not even aware of it, then how can they stop? How are they even choosing anymore? They are being manipulated. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind that place is absolutely jam-packed full of manipulation. All of these stores now are. So, how much choice do we really have anymore?
Well, I think maybe what it is I would kind of put it this way. I think the people's wills through, and I don't like to use this word, society, and your environment that you grow up in, and pop culture and various things. These are machines that actually do have an influence on people. And I think that as a child, going to this thing that they call school, the public school system, and if you are you're told, well, it's based on the Prussian school system. You're told when to come in, sit down, when to stand up, when the next break is, when the bell goes, when to come back inside, when to go to lunch, when to come back from lunch, and so on. And it's, obviously conditioning for getting you ready for the work environment, right? And if you dare put your hand up after you've, come just in from lunch or break or whatever, and say, I need to go to the bathroom. Well, you just had a 15-minute, the teacher jumps down your throat. This person, who's supposed to be there, supposed to be taking care of the children and, making sure that they're getting this so kind of education, whatever it is. Ridicules the child in front of everybody. Then everybody starts sniggering, and then obviously when the next break the finger gets pointed and the kids are sniggering. It's bully. It's the beginning of, I see, as bullying in society. And of course then you've also got your parents. If it's not a healthy family where the parents are screaming and yelling at one another and fighting and falling out, that obviously affects, because the mind is young, right? And what better time for a school, because it's absorbing everything, through your eyes, ears, mouth, taste, smell, listening, being taught, stuff. So when I use this word society and your environment, I think that's a better word, environment. I think then if you're subject to certain stuff, then obviously you're going to still believe this, Easter Bunny, Santa Claus, how old do you have to be before that myth gets squashed, but you do believe it. Tooth Fairy, and then there's the more lies as you get older.
Tooth Fairy.
Huh?
You not believe in the Tooth Fairy?
No.
Are you sure?
Yeah, but where I'm going with this is that yes, television and signage all over the place is a very powerful tool to get people to buy things. And that guy Edward Bernays, he realized that, because I think back, in the early 19s something or other, there was a stigmatism on women smoking, and through a parade. Have you heard of the story?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, just for those that haven't, through a parade, he had these women with cigarettes in their garters, and right outside, I think, front of Macy's or somewhere like that, where they normally stand on this piece of carpeted area. Somebody said, okay, when they stood to have the photographs taken, okay, ladies, light up your Liberty torches, and they pulled out the cigarettes and started smoking them. And then I guess there was a gasp from the crowd, but that was it. Then it was in the mainstream, newspapers at that time, and that was it. Cigarette sales went up because women saw this splashed all over the newspaper, and it wasn't, such a bad thing anymore, because these women had, done it in front of, thousands of people, and now millions of people know about it because it's in these tabloids. But what I was trying to say, I guess, was the will of people. The will gets broken because little Johnny's looking out the window daydreaming at school, and all of a sudden the teacher comes along and slams the chalkboard eraser on the desk and, wake up, what are you doing? And his dreams are shattered, and he's all he's thinking about is getting out of this place, out of this prison, and getting home, because he's been working on building a tree house or something where he's pretending to be Captain Hook or whatever in it, and I think that our imagination, I think a lot of it gets crushed. And so with that imagination, also the will as well. People seem to be less, when it comes to the wills seem to be not strong enough to, because if they really knew what was going on, that, there's so much food that goes to waste.
I know. I was thinking, I mean, the thing is that I find it actually hard because I live like a bit of a double life, and I kind of, you know, I'm lucky enough to live in a house and have enough for what I need. But I think that like paying for food seems to me to be stupid today. And if I had the, you know, if I was living differently, or I had the courage of my convictions, I wouldn't pay for food, because I don't think it'll be that difficult for me to get enough food completely free. If I just, you know, I mean, I don't know why people don't do that. You know, go around to my local little shops and restaurants and say, look, I'd really, you know, what do you do with this stuff, and just take it. I mean, my wife runs a charity that does that for a start. You know, it takes food that's going to be thrown away and distributes it amongst people.
Well, what about the food that never makes it to the grocery stores, that because it's the wrong size or wrong shape or color? And actually, I was talking about this on a radio show the other night, and I was talking actually with Dinny on Skype earlier on about this. Have you heard of Incredible Edibles up in Todmerton?
No.
It's in West Yorkshire. If you ever get the chance, go up there. They actually had this free food, free vegetables. You know what they did? All the public, quasi-public spaces, like outside the fire station, police station, council offices, they tore all the plants out and started growing veg, because people, you know, just had this notion in this meeting in this cafe one day that that's what they needed to do. And even some like places around schools, so any land that they tear up the grass, they tear out the bushes and things like that, and they grow vegetables. It's called Incredible Edibles. So if you were to Google Incredible Edibles Todmerton, and if you can, you know, I would like you, if you can get up that way, to go up with your cameraman and you know, see if you can find these people that are running this, you know, that are doing this. It's obviously a community thing, and they're even now, I believe, in the school, the local school, they're even teaching children how to grow food. And I think, I'm not quite sure, I'm not 100% correct on it, aquaponics, where, you know, you grow food in a greenhouse where you have fish, you know, and the teaching, you know, what we should be teaching kids, how to take care of themselves, how to grow their own food and stuff like that. And several little, you know, mom and pop businesses have actually evolved in Todmerton, and they do get visitors that come on a regular basis. And I think they have like this festival once or twice a year. And it's, yeah, I mean, if I was living in England, I'd definitely want to go and see it and talk to some people there, you know. But there's talks on TED, you know how they have these TED talks?
Yeah.
Talks on TED, you know. Yeah, Incredible Edibles. They've got a website, and
I can see,
Todd Morton,
yeah.
But it's pronounced Todmerton, right? So you've got it. You've Googled it and you've got it. And yeah, I think that is a way to bring about change and people getting free food. You know, like I said, yes. I mean, it's not free, but you're not paying for it. That was the word you used, paying for food. You would be paying for it with your labor, you know, your time, energy, your talent, your labor, which is fine. At least you know what you're growing, right? Fine, you're not getting any of these GMO seeds, but at least you know what what you're growing, and you know what stuff is not being sprayed on it, you know, which is, you know, we don't know when we get these apples that I've got a bag of apples that I bought not, you know, like 2 months ago. They're still good. I mean, what the hell's wrong with that? You know, they gas bananas, they do all kinds of stuff.
I know.
I mean, it is ridiculous. We don't know, you know, really truly what we're eating. And then there's a lot of waste, like I say, before it hits the supermarket shelves, because it's not, you know, it's not perfect enough for them, you know. So are there any more questions? And we can wrap this up, I guess.
I think we might have finished. Have you seen any more questions?
I don't see anything weird. Oh, wait a minute. So then, well, has Danny ever had any success challenging councils, etc.?
Well, they challenged me and tried to stop me doing what I was doing, and they lost. So yes, to an extent. I wasn't convicted of the terrible crime of annoying someone with a megaphone.
Okay.
I think that's probably it.
Yeah, I don't see any more questions. All right, so if you want to say adios or goodbye or
Social Experimentalist on YouTube if you want to subscribe, and Danny Shine on Facebook.
I will put Danny's links to his YouTube channel in this video, and his Facebook link as well in this video in the about section when it finally, you know, goes onto YouTube. It takes, like, I don't know, depends on how long the video, 10-20 minutes to process and to go on there, but it is recording everything right now, and it's going to put it on there. So Spliffsen says, thanks, James and Danny. Thank you, Spliffsen. Thank you all, everybody who's participating in the chat. Thank you for watching. Danny, thank you for coming on. We must do this again sometime. It's been a pleasure actually meeting you video, not in, you know, in real. I've had quite a bit of fun, actually. It did make me laugh. I hope I made you laugh throughout this conversation. And stay with me, Danny, when I end this broadcast. And peace, everybody. Good night in England. Good afternoon in the United States. Good morning if you're in a part of the world where it's morning. And peace. Take care. And everything's okay. Right, Danny?
It certainly is.
Okay. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.